Welcome to DevNetwork's Developer Week webinar series. I'm Patrick Gallagher, and I'd like to welcome all of you to this week's featured webinar presented by Apptio. Apptio is a new sponsor of DevNetwork events and transforms the way IT runs its business and makes decisions. With Apptio's cloud-based applications, IT leaders manage, plan, and optimize their technology investments across on-premise and the cloud. So before we get started with our speaker introductions, I have a few housekeeping items, 3 housekeeping items. First of all, I'd like to remind all of our attendees that live chat and Q&A is available during the session. That's on the right-hand side of your viewer. And you can raise your hand in the chat, or you can just plainly just put a question into chat or into Q&A. We'll address your questions at the end of the presentation. This webinar will be recorded and made available within 24 to 48 hours of the completion of the webinar for additional viewing or re-reviewing. And you can also send it to your coworkers or anybody else who may want to check it out. And number 3, Apptio has made handouts available for download at the end of the presentation. And you can find the handouts in the Handouts tab, again, on the right-hand side of your viewer. So let's get to speaker introductions. Joining us today is your moderator, Stephen Trask. Stephen is the Apptio Cloud Program Manager. And joining as presenters are Tran and Adam Jensen, both FinOps advisors for the Apptio Cloudability group, where we and Adam help customers bring financial accountability to the cloud model. We're also joined by Scott Kellish, who is a Senior Partner Solutions Architect with Amazon Web Services. So without further delay, please give your undivided attention to Stephen, Adam, and Scott.
Hello everyone. My name is Stephen Trask, and I look after the cloud campaign at Apptio. As you all know, and probably have seen the numerous Gartner reports, cloud is the fastest growing line item on the IT bill, and it has been for several years, and it shows no sign of stopping. With this, it becomes more important to understand how to manage these costs and ensure that investment is efficient from a cost sense and delivers business value. So today we have 2 great topics, and I would like to hand it over to Scott Kellish from Amazon Web Services, who will be covering cloud financial management.
Hello, it's my pleasure to be with you today, along with our friends at Apptio, an AWS Advanced Tier partner. My name is Scott Kellish, and I'm a Partner Solution Architect with AWS, where I support partners in the cloud management and tools segment like Apptio. 10 years ago, AWS was only 4 years old and had a scant 20 or so infrastructure services. Back then, it was pretty easy to explain what the cloud was. We often used a public utility analogy, like water coming into our homes. You opened the faucet, used as much or as little water as you needed, and only paid for what you used. Continuing this analogy, where you no longer had to dig your own well, cloud brought simplicity, as many of the operational tasks for IT infrastructure shifted to the cloud provider. Today, AWS has over 175 services, each with a comprehensive set of features and configurable options to choose from. With the adoption of cloud, technology teams are able to innovate faster due to decreased approval, procurement, and infrastructure deployment cycles. Cost of failure is also eliminated for finance organizations, since they are always only a few UI clicks or API calls away from terminating cloud resources. We see customers and businesses using AWS realizing business value across these 4 key dimensions. Cost savings, where they're reducing IT infrastructure spend per user on average 27%. Improved staff productivity, where, for example, the number of virtual machines an admin can manage has increased on average 57%. Improved SLAs with an average 56.7% reduction in annual downtime. And increased business agility, where customers are seeing it take on average 37% fewer days to bring a new application to market. This growth and ease of use in cloud, however, brings with it the risk of excess cloud spend, where businesses can lose sight of which services they're using and, like an open faucet, continue to incur cost. This isn't necessarily bad, as cloud unlocks developers, operations, and IT to focus on their role, but at the end of the day, businesses have a finite budget that must be accounted for. In 2016, we added the cost optimization pillar to the AWS well-architected framework, which provided guidance on using appropriate services, resources, and configuration for your particular workload to save costs, on increasing elasticity to ideally match supply and demand, on expenditure awareness to allow attributing resource costs to business or product owners to drive efficient usage behavior and help reduce waste, and on how to design, monitor, and respond to technology and business conditions to optimize your AWS infrastructure so you only pay for the resources you need and actually use. Since 2016, AWS has seen significant positive changes in the industry around cost optimization and cloud financial management. Changes including increases on adoption, interest, and maturity in customer activities, a rapid growth in the number of industry practitioners and specialists, and growing interest and attendance at AWS events for cost-related sessions. Yet despite all these improvements, organizations still continue to pay for resources when they are idle, over-provision resources, and lack visibility into their workload's efficiency. To help unlock the industry and accelerate economic value realization for customers, AWS updated the cost optimization pillar of the AWS well-architected framework in July 2020. The most significant change was the introduction of Cloud Financial Management, or CFM, which is now the first section in our cost optimization whitepaper. To adopt the cloud efficiently, a fundamental change in organizations is required, and implementing Cloud Financial Management delivers this change. CFM means having a dedicated and focused function that will build your organization's capability. By establishing a partnership between finance and technology, it helps finance to successfully operate with the pace of the cloud and increases financial awareness in the consumers of the cloud. CFM also focuses on building a cost-aware culture and ensures your business processes, existing or new, are also cost-aware. So let's take a closer look at each of these CFM activities. Measurement and accountability focuses on creating an appropriate level of granularity with respect to cost and usage visibility. It's also where you start to influence cloud consumption behaviors through cost allocation reporting and KPI tracking. Here you create a cost structure for resources deployed on AWS with, for example, multiple account boundaries and application of cost allocation tags to deployed resources. By doing so, customers are able to create a natural relationship between their AWS spend and the workloads, environments, products, or lines of business that incur that spend. With this structure now starting to provide visibility into the source of costs in the cost and usage report AWS provides, you can create mechanisms to report and proactively monitor costs. This enables you to mitigate budgetary risks associated with unexpected or anomalous spend faster than waiting for the invoice at the end of the month. You can also begin to introduce showbacks or chargebacks. This allows your technology teams to become more aware of their direct contribution to the bottom line and start becoming more cost-aware stakeholders. As you implement these steps, you want to measure and publish efficiency and value KPIs in order to create a common language across technology and business stakeholders. This allows the business to measure the impact of its cloud financial management investments rather than focus solely on absolute aggregate spend. The next step of activities around cost optimization focus on reducing the cost of your AWS footprint through technical and commercial optimizations. Activities here include creating designs and architectures that treat cost the same way they do other non-functional requirements like performance, security, and scalability. This means selecting the best fitted resource types and the best suited AWS services, which reduces costs while improving both productivity and resiliency. Leveraging the elasticity provided by AWS by exploiting auto-scaling capabilities across a number of AWS services. This allows workloads to scale out when needed and scale in when not, thereby reducing unneeded costs. Choosing the appropriate mix of pricing models can significantly reduce unit costs, including on-demand, reserved instances for steady-state workloads, and spot instances for fault-tolerant or stateless workloads. Rounding this out, You want to be managing resources in a cost-efficient manner by right-sizing, modernizing, and terminating underutilized or idle resources. This allows you to recoup the savings from over-provisioned or unused resources and reinvest those dollars back into experimentation. Planning and forecasting focuses on setting expectations, improving business and financial predictability, and using AWS as an enabling agent for strategic long-term business transformation. Here you'll want to have a process for cloud budgeting and forecasting, which enables you to dive deep into the drivers of cost, thereby improving predictability in short and long-term cloud consumption forecasts. Estimate costs by building and deploying actual POCs and monitoring their cost in real time instead of relying on theoretical or pricing calculations. This allows you to estimate and make technical decisions related to cost faster. You want to articulate the full business value picture, including total cost of ownership, productivity, resiliency, and agility, to help prioritize future projects using a data-driven approach. And you want to learn how AWS is a strategic fit that enables long-term digital transformations and commercial growth. This will help in gaining executive commitments for digital transformations and solidify a long-term cloud consumption strategy. The fourth CFM set of activities, Cloud Financial Operations, is focused on operational, people, and technological enablers for continuous cloud financial management that scales with your cloud journey. Here you'll be establishing an executive sponsor who owns the investment in and outcomes of the cloud financial management activities. This will improve the likelihood that CFM is treated as a first-order initiative alongside others. You'll create a partner relationship between finance and technology stakeholders who will be working on a joint goal for efficient cloud consumption. This will enable closer collaboration on the root causes already mentioned, including pricing model decisions, mitigating unexpected cost variances, and producing forward-looking cloud budgets and plans. You'll want to invest in people through education, governance via processes, tooling, and automation. This will help push the CFM knowledge to the edge and enable the DevOps team to become more cost-focused and start to build mechanisms that minimize cost-related technical debt as they scale on AWS. And with all your success, you'll want to use a consistent approach to celebrate cloud efficiency wins, big or small, showcasing the quantified savings or business value realized from your cost optimization investments. This will help democratize cloud financial management activities to larger parts of the organization, further driving cultural and behavioral changes. So putting all this together, we've defined a formal, disciplined approach for managing, optimizing, and predicting AWS costs in a continuous manner. As you walk away from this presentation, we not only want you to have a mental model associated with the different groups of cloud financial management activities, but also be armed with a playbook that you can use to start small, experiment, iterate, and build upon as you get started on your own cloud financial management journey. As I hand it back to our friends at Apptio, let me remind you that helping our customers save money is part of our DNA. It's who we are as a company, and it's how we prioritize our business, working back from the customer. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Next, we're covering FinOps, which is a growing practice. It's a combination of systems and best practices and culture to increase organizations' ability to understand cloud costs and make trade-offs. I'll now hand it off to Hui and Adam to go into more detail.
Hey everyone, my name is Tran, and I'm here with Adam Jensen, and we're FinOps advisors at Apptio Cloudability. Thank you for joining us today. In today's presentation, we're going to be giving you an introduction to FinOps. Welcome to the new cloud economy. So this presentation is intended to be an introduction to FinOps and how Apptio Cloudability can help you with your FinOps practice. As many of you know, 10 years ago, every piece of IT equipment was capital, bought and paid for with business cases that took months of negotiations to get approved. Then they were installed in the data centers by the operators, recorded in depreciable assets by the accountants. And it was really acceptable that it took us 6 months to build a new release or feature or website. But that's not the case anymore. Competition and user demand requires apps, features, and capabilities now. Not next quarter, not next month, but today. The change from waterfall IT development to agile methodologies with DevOps implementation models means that for many companies, IT can deliver this fast if they have the platforms to deliver on. So enter the public cloud. This is ushering in a new cloud economy where more and more value is delivered direct to customers by the technology developed and run by DevOps teams in the cloud. So if you're ready, there's a catch. So if you look at this from an engineering standpoint, maybe this seems great. Infrastructure as code, feature delivery every 2 weeks, but at what cost? If you look at it from a finance or business perspective, this is scary. Who's approving the spending? What are we spending it on? And who can really tell me what we'll be spending on next month? What we're seeing is the traditional consumption model where engineers have to seek out funding from finance, who are the gatekeepers, is starting to break down. This traditional model made spending transparent, predictable, and static, which were all good things for finance. But this has all resulted in long procurement cycles and a high cost of, which are all bad things for the business as a whole. So cloud has really changed this dynamic. With DevOps and public cloud, engineers write infrastructure as code. They spend little or no visibility to finance, and they buy resources finance has no familiarity with or experience budgeting for. There's a huge amount of experimentation, which is great for innovation, but bad for predictability. And overall, there's a lack of communication about what's going on. The new cloud economy has us facing some new realities in the IT world. Traditional procurement silos have broken down, buying is decentralized, and it's only getting more so. Cloud adoption, once the purview of CTOs and the location of science fair projects, now represents material and substantial costs for many companies, and it's only growing. What you buy in the cloud is variable, and it changes month to month, day to day, minute to minute. It's not predictable, and it's hard to forecast well using traditional methods. And with over 1 million cloud SKUs out there, it's only getting more complex. Finally, in a cloud world of vast supply, plentiful options, and few constraints on your spending, inefficiency becomes inevitable. But all businesses must focus on efficiency and the need for the information to create it. Furthermore, economic pressures or fluctuations in demand require even more ruthless efficiency measures. Efficiency then becomes a target on IT's back in a downturn. Luckily, there's a new operating model for the cloud to help us address these realities. And this really leads us to the problem. Analysts are estimating that through 2020, Gartner is estimating that 80% of organizations will initially overshoot their budget or have misguided or unknown forecasts. Flexera, in their State of the Cloud report, estimated that 35% of cloud spend will be wasted. So these might be scary statistics, but that's why Adam and I are here today to discuss FinOps. And Adam, I think you've got a story to tell here.
Yeah, you bring up, throughout the slide, you brought up some very good points. I can tell you, I previously worked for a large satellite imagery company where one of their biggest spending drivers was AWS S3 storage, as imagery was their currency. That being the case, they ended up creating several buckets, actually duplicated S3 storage buckets, to ensure that they didn't lose any imagery and that they continued to retain all of that for future use. However, what they didn't realize is they were creating tens of thousands of dollars in excess spend a month that were really unnecessary. So ultimately, these costs were identified, and I actually worked with the internal teams to identify and set out plans to reduce the waste. Which actually leads us very eloquently into what FinOps is. So FinOps is the operating model for the cloud. FinOps enables a shift, which is a combination of systems, best practices, and culture to increase an organization's ability to understand cloud costs and make trade-offs. Really, the key here is financial accountability. This is what you need to help solve the broken procurement systems brought about by the speed of DevOps and the variable spend model of the cloud, because FinOps is a prescriptive set of processes and cultural change. It enables different and distinct groups that are traditionally bad at communicating to work together in order to make better decisions. FinOps is here to increase the business value of cloud by bringing together technology, business, and finance professionals with a new set of capabilities. It's a collaborative way of doing business that builds on DevOps to allow finance, IT, and the business all to manage at the speed demanded by today's customers. It allows us to take advantage of the good things about DevOps and cloud, the innovation, the speed, the flexibility, and combine that with the advantages of the traditional model, which finance, like the visibility, the predictability. It's also important to note that FinOps is a principle-driven methodology that includes prescriptive processes and capabilities to drive broad cultural change. This isn't simply a list of items to check off once. It's a cultural change. It requires teams to start collaborating, be sure everyone's on board and everything is transparent. You needed to educate teams so they understand the implications of cloud use and learn how to be good stewards of it. It's common to agreed upon goals and KPIs that align the business to the needs and drives decision-making throughout the organization. It's also about reporting that is accurate and timely. Helps you understand where you can automate to drive maturity and even more predictability, as well as speed. And really, one of the main focuses of many is cost optimization. It helps drive cost optimization processes to enable savings where appropriate and drive cloud use when it's valuable. So the other thing we wanted to really highlight here is we know many might be coming from an understanding of TBM. So we wanted to give a comparison of FinOps and TBM. So TBM and FinOps both strive to provide good, comprehensive information to make good, timely decisions and allow the business to perform trade-offs to maximize business value. To have the data to talk about the value of services and accounts and not talk about the mechanics of either general ledger accounts or cloud accounts. They operate on a different scope, scale, and speed, and each relies on slightly different skill sets, tools, and capabilities. However, neither stands alone. They complement one another. So as you can see in the slides here, there's some similarities. TBM and FinOps both strive to provide comprehensive information to make timely decisions and allow the business to perform trade-offs to maximize business value. Each methodology tackles a part of the IT spend and usage management problem and provide North Star principles to pursue. Both rely upon the same type of taxonomy of costs and cost allocations. TBM and FinOps both produce outputs useful to the other methodology. Where they differ is in scope. TBM looks at all IT spending, so FTEs, consulting, licenses, data centers, and it's across the entire organization, where FinOps focuses on public cloud and variable spend costs specifically. The differences are the scale of the inputs. So for instance, FinOps relies upon a limited number of source inputs containing extremely large and complex data sets, where TBM relies upon a much larger number of source inputs of a lower but varying complexity and consistency. There's also the element of speed. So FinOps is designed to be executed in an action cycle as quickly as possible. So we're talking hourly, daily. And this really is to enable or react to the variability of cloud usage. TBM manages all the traditional cost elements which operate on a longer business cycle. So we're looking monthly or quarterly and sit on those kinds of cadence. So to give you kind of a visual image of how this works, if you spend a lot on IT but not a lot on cloud, you're most likely using TBM. So up in the upper left quadrant, where it's the orange TBM quadrant. If you're high on cloud costs and relatively small on TBM or on-prem costs, you'll reside more probably in that FinOps lower green box area. If you're high in both, then obviously you sit within the TBM and FinOps. And if you're low on both, you're gonna sit down in the bottom left corner, probably still using spreadsheets and pulling your hair out on a regular basis. So how does FinOps work? So FinOps is executed in a life cycle loop. It's a cyclical process that continually examines cloud use, seeks opportunities for optimization, and builds them incrementally into the organization. Maturity in FinOps comes slowly, and good organizations start off slowly and build momentum as they go. So we refer to this as the crawl, walk, run cadence. This allows companies to exercise FinOps lifecycle to achieve small wins early on, but also build that muscle as you go. Muscle memory of successful right sizing, reservation purchasing, cost allocation, executive reporting, informative dashboards, things of this nature really help you build that muscle memory and give you those small wins. Over time, this cycle creates a flywheel effect, creating momentum and accelerating the maturity of the practice.
Yeah, Adam, and I just want to jump in there. To your points there, it's absolutely a life cycle. And I've worked with many customers over the years to work towards visibility to ensure that you have full transparency within the organization of your spend. From there, features like budget and forecasting, anomaly detection only help to reinforce those habits and the allocation models that you've put in place. And then eventually you'll want to start working on optimization and operate, and you'll continually revisit them in that flywheel effect to build transparency across the company. Which, Adam, as you've mentioned, will eventually get us to where a mature organization wants to be, which is the operate phase and being able to articulate on unit economics. So when getting to unit economics, this can be a KPI of identifying the cost per meaningful unit of benefit, whether that's the number of customers, active users, dollars per available seat mile, or any online transactions. FinOps really allows organizations to manage cloud use to effectively deliver value. And while that might sound hard, but luckily, again, you've got some help, and I'll hand it back over to Adam to talk through how Cloudability can help deliver FinOps.
Yeah, thanks, Wee. I mean, really when it comes down to it, you need to think about trying to get to those numbers and managing large data sets. From the very beginning, FinOps Foundation, Apptio Cloudability has provided the solution purpose-built to support FinOps. So if we start with the bottom, with access to your public cloud billing data, API access to other sources of cloud usage data within your environment, and integrations with industry-leading solutions in complementary areas of cloud management like performance management and automation, Cloudability is able to transform that extremely complex data. So I mean, when we talk about extremely complex data, we're talking about Excel spreadsheets, where if you're trying to export a curve file, you're talking about millions and millions of rows within an Excel spreadsheet where you're trying to sort through and manage. It's just overly complicated, very difficult. So Cloudability helps transform that by enriching it, so making associations and tags based on business logic or account affiliation, by normalizing it, making dimensions human readable rather than cloud provider specific and confusing, and then allocating it using a wide variety of parameters and in ways that are reproducible, changeable over time. It then takes that data and it stores it in a data lake at full granularity for all time with no summarization or loss of fidelity over that time. So in other words, you'll have access to all the data that you push into Cloudability over time. And apply our analytics and machine learning algorithms too. So if you look across the top, you'll see inform, optimize, operate, which often refers back to the lifecycle we previously discussed. So this machine learning algorithms help you to identify right-sizing opportunities, recommend RI or savings plans purchases, recommend conversions to existing reservations, identify anomalies, automate reports. It's really there in ways that support the inform, optimize, operate phase of the FinOps lifecycle. So one of the big things that we wanted to show is our customer stories bear out the values and Cloudability can produce. So some of the stories we review and highlight are here in this timeline or in this slide to really show the interest. So for instance, I could tell you previously that I'd worked with Cypress to really coordinate and drive change amongst their globally dispersed teams to get visibility and empower them to make informed decisions. Really what we were doing here is working with the teams to understand their cloud costs and usage and pushing it out to the edge. So having those conversations around usage with the teams to then drive decisions around RI purchasing, right sizing, changes that may enhance their cloud, but also reduce their spend.
Yeah, that's a great story there, Adam. And I want to add one as well. We had a scenario where a major travel agency experienced a huge drop in business due to worldwide travel restrictions related to a pandemic. The sudden decrease in demand meant there was cloud expenditure that was frankly no longer necessary. So what was the impact of that? Leadership really needed to quickly determine which services and resources were mission critical and which could be downsized until travel demands return to its normal state. And they resolved this by using Cloudability's optimization features, which help the travel agency quickly save money by identifying over-provisioned resources to right size. With reports and dashboards generated within Cloudability, teams were able to communicate which services were tied to mission-critical business functions. And in the next slide, in addition to providing you with the tools to get the FinOps job done, Apptio Cloudability is also able to support you with the know-how. So our team of technical account managers and practice management professionals, such as Adam and I, who are FinOps advisors, have the experience working with some of the best companies in the world to help build a FinOps practice and culture. Whether it's a technical account manager to guide you in your everyday use of Cloudability, to help your growing FinOps team, or our practice management team to help build and operate a FinOps practice for you, we're here to help jumpstart your journey and help you mature much more quickly. There's time and value in bringing in the experts in the platform to coach you along and to help you get the most of your investment and get it done as quickly as possible. We also offer a variety of professional services options that can do a few things. One, we can help you with specific areas of concern. So perhaps it's creating a set of KPIs, creating or starting a reservation purchasing plan, or developing meaningful executive reporting from the data. We can also help you manage these FinOps functions, backfill for vacancy, or create a function while you search for the right resource to fill it long term. In our advisory services, we teach you how to fish, and in our practice management programs, we show you how to fish and fish for you while you're learning. Our FinOps professionals focus on your business success, not just cost reporting. We bring FinOps certified practitioners who don't just support the software, but we support your business outcomes. But don't take our word for it. Started in February of 2019, the FinOps Foundation had grown from 8 charter members to over 1,000 in less than a year. People from all over the world have come together to learn and to offer their stories and best practices with others who are doing this important job. FinOps is a new methodology and a new operating model fundamentally born out of the use of DevOps and the public cloud by companies trying to innovate to serve their customer needs. You will find many of these FinOps practitioners at FinOps.org, and if there was one thing that Adam and I could recommend to you is to help manage your cloud usage more effectively, it would be to join and become active in the foundation. In addition, FinOps Foundation founders have authored a book, Cloud FinOps, available now anywhere where you purchase books. They sponsor FinOps practitioner workshops around the world to anyone to help learn and understand the practice of FinOps and how to use it within their company. And that's it. We appreciate your time today in learning about FinOps and how Apptio Cloudability and our professional services team can help you to support this important operating model in the cloud for your organization. Thank you for joining Adam and I today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I just want to say thank you to all our speakers for today. And if we have not answered any of your questions, we will make sure to follow up with you directly.
I think we may have just kind of ended the speakers there. I just want to answer a few questions and also extend a kind of promotion we're doing with Apptio Cloudability. We're offering at the moment, no matter where you are in your cloud journey, we're offering an extended 28-day free trial of Apptio Cloudability. So you can take a look at those optimization opportunities and also get a deeper dive into your kind of cloud costs and how kind of potential FinOps can kind of benefit you and your company. So feel free today. We will kind of like share that link, and also it's on the screen now. And I'm just going to jump into some Q&A, which we've kind of had throughout the kind of webinar. I know one came in kind of covering, let's have a look. Kind of like, okay, let's go for this one. Kind of like AWS provide native tools around cost. When should you start using a third-party tool? And that's a really great question. And it's really around complexity. It's when you start doing things at scale, when you start kind of or predicting that scale further into cloud. It's when you that complexity could be something around like multi-cloud. So how do you handle multiple clouds and where those costs are coming from? Do you use 3 native tools and log into those with different terminologies? And that's where Cloudability allows you to aggregate that into a single pane of glass. Also around allocation and kind of mapping those costs to the correct areas of business. And you've got to remember the complexities around this cloud cost. As soon as you start scaling, just becomes, it's not a kind of a manual effort that you can do in spreadsheets anymore. It's something you have to use a tool for. The native tools get you started in that journey. There's definitely a place for them, but as soon as your costs start rising and that complexity starts increasing, that's when you need to start investigating third-party tools like Apptio Cloudability. That also might be within a migration. So if you foresee your costs kind of increasing over the next 18 months, that's when you kind of need to start kind of considering those tools. Another one is, what is the most important part of FinOps you can get started with? That's another great question. I would say it's around visibility. I think it's about understanding what your initial costs, where are you spending, what are your resources are spending. It's where you have the question of, we've had a cloud cost spike in our bill, and then if you can't answer why that is, then you've got a problem. You need to be able to answer those problems about that inform phase, understanding what you're spending where and why are you seeing rising costs, and explain them. Another part I would also add to that is collaboration. Collaboration is key to part of FinOps. It's communicating to exterior teams within the kind of organization, and making sure that collaboration and that communication is key. And again, it's not something that is you want to go a million miles an hour straight away. It's a walk, crawl, run, crawl, walk, run kind of phases that we want to definitely cover. So it's not immediately kind of trying to do everything. It's just starting easily with visibility and enabling that communication, enabling you to move on to the next stages. And then we have another one, which is, what are some typical FinOps KPIs? I know Hui and Adam covered a few, but you could break that down a bit down by kind of like the inform about the visibility phase. You could be doing a percentage of untagged resources. So how much tag coverage do you have within your resources? So you can know how much, that you're not seeing and you can't properly allocate. So that's something you could resolve and work towards resolving. And then another one is kind of like, allocated spend. So it's how much are you allocating back to the business or allocating to the cost centers? I'm trying to think of another one. Optimization, you could be talking about a kind of the utilized percentage of by resource type. So how much are you utilizing those resources? Are you taking advantage of those instances that you've purchased? Another aspect is percentage of savings plans or reserved instance coverage. So how much covering are you kind of getting? Like the dream obviously is kind of getting up to like 80-90%. But you have to, again, start small. How can you get 10%, then move on, and having that indicator to definitely kind of move it forward. And then with operate, as kind of Hui mentioned, was kind of, it's the cost economics of it. So you could move on to things such as costs per 1,000 monthly active users, or things to something down to a single thing that's like cost per rideshare if you're a rideshare company, but it's cost per X. If you can kind of get visibility onto that cost and then work towards driving that kind of cost down, or maintaining that cost and driving your users up, that's the nirvana of cloud, is having that definitely that flexibility and that scalability that it brings. I'm just trying to think. I think that might be
Stephen, if you wanted to check, Stephen, this is Patrick back again. Both you and I were having some problems there with the technical issues. Yeah. But if you want to go to Q&A, there are a couple additional Q&A questions there. I'm not sure if you got to all of them. I have been trying to keep them going for you. If you want to look at Q&A new.
Yeah, is there a cost management feature available with Apptio for an on-prem private cloud aside with public cloud? So we do have other features. So Apptio is Cloudability is part of the public cloud. There are other technology management tools within the Apptio platform. We have a tool called Cost Transparency, so we can look into your technology spend, definitely, I would definitely check out our website and find out more details on that. There is another range of products as solutions as well, which covers all manners of technology management spend. Forecasting budgeting seems to be. Oh, it's how to drive predictability well with budget and forecasting. So it's all around what Apptio Cloudability do is they're bringing in all the knowledge of like the world top spenders within cloud. So we have a lot of years. I think we started in 2011, 2012. So we have a lot of data to base that on. So we know all the kind of those data points, and then we can kind of map that into. We're using machine learning to accurately help predict your future cloud spends, and as well as your usage patterns and everything around your kind of costs and usage data. So it's very much data science, machine learning that helps solve the problem to reduce that variance down to a minimal. I think that's it now. I think that's
it does appear there is one question that just popped up from Venkat. Yes, the session will be available. The recorded version of this webinar will be available in the next 24 to 48 hours. So it will be emailed out to the people who have registered, who are attending today, as well as the people who register who couldn't make it today. So we will be getting those people, and it will be going out to our lists in addition in the next few weeks to few months, still continuing to promote the webinar on an ongoing basis. And Apptio will be doing a webinar pretty much once a month for the next few months. So keep looking out and going back to devnetwork.com to see what the next session from Apptio will be. And I'm sure that it'll be another great and interesting presentation. And I did want to thank our speakers today, Scott, and Adam, for their great presentation. I was saying that at the end, but obviously there was a technical issue for both Stephen and I. So we want to, first of all, thank everybody who stayed on. Usually what happens, there's a wholesale drop off all the attendees. Actually, everybody stayed on, which was amazing, which is terrific. Thank you very much for that.
Thanks for the patience.
The patience. And I think there was a lot of interest in hearing some of those questions and asking some questions. So,
yeah.
And then I did put, Stephen, I just want to make sure that you're clear on the chat. I did put, and in the Q&A, that if there's any, you had asked that there's any other questions or answers after the webinar, there's an email address that people can send those questions to, which would be events@apptio.com. And that is listed on the Q&A as well as in the chat room. So just make sure you're checking that out, everybody. Last few items. We are, again, the webinar will be sent out to everybody, but it also is going to be housed in our archive at devnetwork.com. So make sure you go to devnetwork.com, see the past webinars, see this webinar, pay attention, and keep checking back to see what the next Apptio webinar is going to be. That will be part of our general webinar series with a lot of great companies participating. And we've just added Apptio to that, and we're very excited to having you guys as part of the webinar series. With that, I'm just about done. Stephen, was there anything else you wanted to add?
No, just please reach out if you've got any more questions. We're happy to answer them, or check out apptio.com.
Terrific. And I just wanted to thank everybody, all of our attendees, for participating, and make sure that you have a great day and a safe day. Have a great day.